Okay, welcome to the Teal Shirt Report podcast, brought to you by Social Realty and Capital, the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. Mad Max getting shows started back again on Wednesday in the new year of 2025 that we're in now. Also, the same story with JC and Live from the Pub on Thursday nights on Lake Uvalde Hits, LakeUvaldeHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. JC does Live from the Pub on Thursday nights. Mad Max's show on Wednesday nights. MadMaxMix.weebly.com. Mad Max on Wednesday evenings, 6 till 8 Central Time, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Well, we checked the calendar. We checked the calendar. Let's see. Last Sunday. Last Sunday was December 29th. I wanted to bring some stats in here for you. Last podcast, we checked the NFL standings. There's teams having good years. There's teams having bad years. And then there's teams kind of in the middle, like Miami, trying to still win and earn a playoff spot. Playoffs. Well, the Jaguars won't be going to the playoffs. The Tennessee Titans will not be going to the playoffs. So you had almost like a toilet bowl scenario at Everbank Stadium, but the Jaguars won a game, and I'm always happy to see the Jaguars win. They won the game 20-13. They had a 13-3 lead at halftime. Mac Jones, I think what I've noticed with Mac Jones is he can make the throws at times. And, Mac Jones had 2 touchdown passes in the last game, one to Parker Washington, the other one to Brian Thomas Jr., who may be the rookie of the year in the NFL, or Brock Bowers, perhaps a tight end with the Raiders. But Mac Jones has been, he's getting his feet planted in the offense. It's taking him a little time, but he seems like he's getting better as a backup quarterback for the Jaguars, filling in for Trevor Lawrence. Mac Jones was 15 out of 22, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, but the key stat, no interceptions against the Titans. Let's see. ETN, Travis Etienne Jr., 15 carries, 49 yards. More big numbers from Brian Thomas Jr., receiving yards, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and 1 touchdown. Now, if you compare the top 2 receivers in this game, Calvin Ridley, who got $50 million guaranteed, 5 receptions, 85 yards, no touchdowns. Brian Thomas Jr., 7 receptions, 91 yards, and 1 touchdown. Brian Thomas Jr., in my mind, is already a better wide receiver than Calvin Ridley, at least by a smidge or more than that. And I think he's got better upside. He's got more speed. I think he's faster with game speed than a lot of people thought he was. I think he's got more speed. AFC South standings, Jaguars 4-12, Tennessee 3-13. The Houston Texans 9-7, Indianapolis Colts 7-9. I heard a rumor that Indianapolis has like an eyelash shot of making the playoffs if they beat the Jaguars this week. Could that be enough motivation? We hear Anthony Richardson, I believe, is out again. In his first 2 years in the NFL, Anthony Richardson has not played a lot of football. He's missed a lot of games. On the other hand, Brian Thomas Jr., Brian Thomas Jr. had a little bit of an injury earlier in the year, a few weeks ago, and man, he's played through it. I believe he's healthy again. He's playing like he's healthy. 7 receptions, 91 yards, and 1 touchdown in the last game. And Brian Thomas Jr. stacked about 3 really good games back to back to back. And he's a real deal. He's got over 1,100 yards receiving in the 2024 season. It's now 2025. Jaguars will play the Indianapolis Colts. And, keep in mind that is a road game. That's going to be a a tough one. I don't doubt for a moment Mac Jones will play decent football in this game. Jaguars will play the Colts. We're also going to talk some college football as well. We gave you some of the stats. Should we go back and check more stats? We will, and we can. Let me also pull up the game that's coming up this Sunday. It's week 18. Everybody gets a bye, 17-game season, 18 weeks in the season, and it's come to this, the final game of the year. Nobody expected, not hardly anybody expected the Jaguars to be 4-12 at this juncture of the season. The Indianapolis Colts are 7-9. I think the Colts are getting more out of their total roster than the Jaguars are. They're winning more games. The Colts are at home. The feeling is this: the home field advantage is probably worth 3 points or more, and the Colts are a 3.5-point favorite. Our source is saying Indianapolis will win the game, cover the spread, and the total will go under. The total points is about 44. I'm going to go along with it. I think the Colts win this game. I think they probably cover the 3.5-point spread, and they win this game by a touchdown, probably 6 or 7 points. And I would never root against the Jaguars, even though I'm picking the Colts in the pool. If the Colts cover, then I win in the pool, but I lose in the in my psyche for doing this show, because it's not fun to talk about a 4-13 team. I do see good things on the horizon. We've heard rumors this week. I mean, these rumors have been almost substantiated that perhaps offensive coordinator Ben Johnson with Detroit wants to come here and be the head coach. And then Mark Brunell would follow him here as either the quarterback coach or the offensive coordinator. Now, maybe what Mark likes, maybe he likes working with the quarterback, and maybe Mark's not a play caller, or that's not his interest, but I think he'd probably call plays if he was asked to. The offensive coordinator is going to be more the play caller. The quarterback coach is going to work with the quarterback to make sure his game is at top and peak performance. That's kind of how I see it. Could Ben Johnson come to Jacksonville? Sure. But he's under contract with the Detroit Lions. And last I checked, I think what are they, about 14-2? Yeah, Ben Johnson's done a good job. So is their head coach, Campbell. You know, and here's the thing. These guys are going to be with Detroit till the end of the playoffs. If I'm Shad Khan, I'm going to go hire a GM. Ben Johnson wants to come here. That GM probably will give Ben Johnson a very good shot, unless there's another coach the GM would rather have. I keep bringing up this name, Les Snead, with the Rams. And there's a couple of reasons why I do. There's more than a couple of reasons. He was a scout with the Jaguars before Shad Khan bought the team in the early days. Les Snead was a scout with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So he goes back a long ways with the Jaguars. Kind of started his career. That was one of his early jobs in the NFL, was with the Jacksonville Jaguars as a scout. I've just got a feeling that if you could throw enough money, enough of a contract during that, what do they call it? I think most everybody, and I could be wrong, and I don't know, I really don't know Les Snead's contract, but I think everybody has that outlet that in January or when the season ends, they have a few days where they can, okay, I'm going back to the Rams. Wait a second now. The Jaguars are coming at me with a Brinks truck full of money, a 10-year deal, maybe a piece of the team. Maybe. I don't see that, but And Les Snead, if he has any inkling at all that he may make a change in his life to a new job, he's been with the Rams for years and years and years. I think he went back way back when Jeff Fisher was a coach with the Rams, right? He was part of the move to when they moved to Los Angeles. That's a darn big market, Los Angeles. I'm not sure Los Angeles is the best football town, but it's a big, huge market. One of the top, 2, 3, 4 markets in all the United States and all of America as far as football goes. Maybe not as far as football goes, but as far as media markets go. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago. Those are some of the biggest markets. Would a guy like Les Snead leave there? Maybe. He's from the Southeast. He grew up in Alabama. Our executive producer, JC, actually grew up in the same town as Les Snead. I'd like to see that. And a guy with Les Snead's experience, you got to think, well, he'd probably like to bring his Rams coach with him, right? But that may not happen. The Rams coach, maybe the Rams would elevate a guy to GM. I don't think the Jaguars need to do that. I think the Jaguars need to find a guy that's got a track record, a successful GM that's a current GM in the National Football League, a top 5, top 10, top 15 GM that's currently a general manager in the National Football League. That's my opinion. If it's not Les Snead, perhaps it's somebody else that fits a similar mold. That's my opinion. But ultimately, I think Shad Khan's got to hire a new GM, throw the money at him and say, run the team. Hire the best coach available. Ben Johnson may be the best coach available. That would be available. If Ben Johnson comes from Detroit, there were some people saying, well, but Mark Brunell may just stay there with Campbell in Detroit. Well, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that Mark Brunell really likes Ben Johnson a lot and would follow him to Jacksonville, where Mark Brunell has some pretty intense ties, being part of the pride of the Jaguars. And Mark Brunell played in numerous playoff games for Jacksonville in the early days, back in the mid to late 90s, of course. So a dream scenario for me would be Les Snead as a GM, Ben Johnson as the new head coach, and Mark Brunell as offensive coordinator or / quarterback coach. You may find another guy to call the plays. And there's a lot of pressure in Jacksonville on the play caller. There may be more pressure on the play caller than anybody else, because over the years, the plays are terrible. The play calling is terrible. You hear that from the fans. You hear that from the media. You hear that, right? Okay, so we get over to these stats. I think consistency has honestly been the biggest problem for the Jacksonville Jaguars on defense. I think they've got 3 first-round draft picks. Balky, he gave Josh Hines Allen a huge contract. He drafted Trayvon Walker number 1 overall, when at this point I'm thinking Trayvon Walker's a nice talent, good player, maybe a 2nd or 3rd round talent. And he traded up to get Devin Lloyd, who was, by the way, we drafted him late in the 1st round. These are all 1st round picks. Are the Jags getting the effort out of these players? Let's see if we can go back and get some stats here. Jaguars beat Tennessee 20-13. Back on Sunday, December the 29th, we looked at the standings. Jaguars 4-12. Tennessee Titans 3-13. The Jaguars are in 3rd place, and they got the tiebreaker for 3rd place. They beat the Titans twice. So 2 of the Jags' 4 wins have come against the Titans at Tennessee and here in Jacksonville. Indianapolis Colts are 7-9. They're about a 3.5 point favorite over the Jaguars this week up in Indy. Houston has the division all sewed up, but not the greatest record. Houston is 9-7. And, we've seen that obviously in the past. Let me see if I can pull up some more stats. Again, we gave you the stats. By the way, the Tennessee quarterback was 19 out of 31, 193 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That was an interception, I think, that deflected and went right in the hands of Devin Lloyd. There's no way he could have dropped that. It's like it hit him right in the stomach or the chest area, and he hauled it in, right? Brian Thomas Jr., 7 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown, a long one of 31 yards he caught. Parker Washington had a touchdown catch, 3 catches, 31 yards. But Brian Thomas Jr., 7 catches, 91 yards. That's at least, 3 really good games back to back to back by Brian Thomas Jr. Now the defensive stats. Foyesade Alakun is worth the money. He's led the National Football League or been very, very close to the top of the tackling leaders for the last 4 or 5 years with the Jaguars and back when he was with the Atlanta Falcons. He was re-signed by Balky. I think it was a good signing. I thought last year, I said, is he slowing down? Well, he didn't slow down in this one. 11 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. Andre Sisco had a good game. 8 total tackles, 6 solo tackles. Monteric Brown, known as Buster Brown, man, I like this kid. And he was a high draft pick too. In the late rounds I'm talking about. What was Monteric, 6th or 7th round pick? 7 total tackles, 5 solo tackles. Devin Lloyd woke up a little bit in this game. 6 total tackles, 4 solo tackles. Josh Hines-Allen had 6 tackles, 3 solo tackles. And I'm going to say this, Tyson Campbell from his cornerback position, back healthy, back playing football, 5 total tackles and 5 solo tackles. Jerrion Jones has had a good rookie season, number 22 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. 5 total tackles, 4 solo tackles in this game. And what about Antonio Johnson? Safety, 5th round pick a couple of years ago. He's in his 2nd year in the NFL out of Texas A&M. I think he was still in the draft and probably one of Balky's better draft picks. 3 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, and he had the deflection. He deflected the pass away in the end zone. That sealed the victory for the Jaguars in their 20-13 win over the Tennessee Titans. Mason Smith, 2nd round pick, 2 tackles, a solo tackle. He seems to be getting a little bit more involved with the defense. Trayvon Walker, number 44. Trayvon, 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle. He did have a sack in this game and a tackle for a loss, which would be the sack, right? I'm assuming. 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, had a sack. So he came through in a big-time play. But still, 2 tackles, 1 solo tackle, 1 sack. And Devin Lloyd got the big interception in this game. Cam Little's done a great job kicking. He kicked 2 field goals, 2 for 2 in this one. 48 yards was his long one. Logan Cook, he's been consistent all year. 3 punts, 130 yards, 43.3 yard per game average. And sometimes his average is longer than that. He's going to be in the Pro Bowl. Logan Cook, he's a Pro Bowl punter in the AFC. His snapper, Masick, has been elected to the Pro Bowl too. And we understand that Brian Thomas Jr. has been named as a Pro Bowl alternate. I think Hines-Allen, I'm not as excited about. Yeah, I'm always glad to see Jaguars make the Pro Bowl, but Hines-Allen, I guess, is an alternate, and so is Trayvon Walker. So these guys getting some due. I'd like to see more consistent play out of the first rounders that play defense for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that is some of reviewing the last game, which was a win. Jacksonville Jaguars 20, Tennessee Titans 13. I think the Jags probably lose in Indianapolis against the Colts. Colts about a 3.5-point favorite in the game coming up this Sunday. Let me double check the time on this game. Colts are 7-9, Jaguars 4-12. That game will be at 1:00 p.m. this Sunday, January the 5th at 1:00 p.m. at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I believe it's the same place they do the combine most every year as well before the draft. Our source thinks Indianapolis will win, cover the spread, and the total will go under. And I tend to agree with our source this week. Jacksonville Iceman had a 4-game winning streak, and then all of a sudden, they lost down in Asterio on the road. Their 4-game winning streak was snapped by the, what's the name of that team down there? Florida Everblades. Florida Everblades won that game. And this is part of North Florida Entertainment. The Icemen having a great year. They are really, really having a great year. Jacksonville Armada, they're going to get a new soccer stadium. The Armada paid, I think, $1 for the property. I don't know all the details with that, but they're going to be around. Going to be soccer in Jacksonville for a long time. Tough loss for the Jacksonville Icemen against the Florida Everblades, 6-2 on the road on Friday night, January the 3rd of 2025. The Icemen still having a very, very good season in 2024-25 with an 18-10-2 record. The Icemen 4-game winning streak was snapped in this one on the road, 6-2 against the Florida Everblades down in South Florida in the Asterio, Florida area. So, Icemen having a good year. They really, really are. We're going to talk let's talk some college football. Georgia got beat by Notre Dame. I know Ray Kennedy from our Big J Report Facebook group, big Notre Dame fan. We got Georgia fans in there, Florida fans, as you know as well. And John Gaylor's a Florida guy. Alex Nunnery is. I'm a Florida Gator fan. JC, our executive producer, is an Alabama guy. They got beat. Heck, they got beat in their bowl game by Michigan. And we're going to take a look at college football bowl games. Notre Dame is beating Georgia. I know that makes Mad Max makes him not happy because he's a big Georgia Bulldog football fan. He's our Georgia Bulldog football insider. There's going to be changes at Georgia, maybe to the coaching staff, the assistant coaches I'm talking about. Mad Max did tell me a few weeks ago that he thought maybe Georgia might have been, what were the words he used, that some of the problems could be coaching. So maybe Kirby's going to address that with some changes on his with his assistant coaches, is what I'm trying to say. College football bowl games in 2024-25. I saw something that was interesting about some of the bowl games, the Orange Bowl and maybe the Cotton Bowl, saying they weren't gonna change times or dates or something that ESPN wanted them to. Hey, don't they know ESPN owns college football, right? Let's take a look at. I know I can pull some scores up. We'll take a look at college football. ACC has done terribly at bowl games. Duke got rolled by Ole Miss in the Gator Bowl. Let's pull up go back to the Gator Bowl game. Penn State is in the Final Four of college football with a 38-10 win over SMU in a first rounder. Penn State won their game back on December the 21st, and then they won again. Penn State beat SMU 38-10. Notre Dame beat Indiana 26. And then Notre Dame, in their next matchup several days later, they obviously beat Georgia. That was a huge one. Ohio State 42, Tennessee 17. Ohio State's in the Final Four. Penn State 31, Boise State 14. in the Fiesta Bowl in a quarterfinal matchup on December the 31st. Ohio State leveled Oregon 41-21. Did I see something in some of the social media groups that said the Oregon quarterback there's an Oregon quarterback that's going to be leaving, taking an NIL deal, going somewhere else. Georgia lost to Notre Dame. And you do have the Cotton Bowl will come up on January the 10th at 7:30 p.m. on ESPN. The night before, January the 9th, the Orange Bowl, 7:30 p.m. ESPN. Penn State will play in that one. And I don't think everything's updated in some of the reports I'm looking at, but we can pull up scores. I think I've got most of them on our Twitter account, so we'll pull up some scores, some of the bowl games we've been following as well. They're down to the Final Four in college football now. I get a kick out of Phil Hellmuth, probably the world's greatest poker player of all time. I kind of follow him on Twitter. Sometimes we'll repost some of Phil's stuff too. So check us out. Twitter. The Twitter account, we got a few hundred people that follow us on Twitter. That number goes up and down with most accounts. Scott Mullis at Big J Report Scott on our Twitter, or now it's known as the X, as you know. College football, the Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame has advanced into the Final Four of college football, or what they're calling it, the semifinals. College football playoff, Sugar Bowl, Notre Dame 23, Georgia 10. The Gator Bowl game right here in Jacksonville was played on January the 2nd. College football Gator Bowl, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. And give the quarterback Dart credit for playing in the game. I think he threw 4 touchdown passes. Quarterback Dart. He throws them like a dart, right? So Dart had 4 touchdown passes in the game. Ole Miss beat Duke. Ole Miss 52, Duke 20. That was not a playoff game, but it's close to my heart being the Gator Bowl game here in Jacksonville. Ole Miss 52 and Duke 20, the final score. College football playoff, again, the Sugar Bowl. After the game was delayed for a full day because of the basically terrorist incident that happened in New Orleans with the guy driving the truck over a bunch of people, destroying property and, actually costing people their lives and several injuries too. Then the city of New Orleans says we're going to play football the next day in the Sugar Bowl. The game was delayed for one whole day. And Notre Dame won that game. Notre Dame 23, Georgia 10, the final score. Penn State advances to the Final Four, too. Penn State 31, Boise State 14. Ohio State beat Oregon 41-21. Let's see. Let's pick up the 4 teams that are in the playoff. Now you got Penn State. Georgia is out. Penn State, Notre Dame, Texas. Texas is in. That's right. Texas won their game, and they move on to the semifinals of college football. Did we put the Texas score in here? I thought we had. And Texas won their game, though, in overtime. That was an overtime game, right? Texas is the only one of the 3 SEC teams that now have advanced into the semifinals. You got Penn State, you got Texas, and you got Ohio State. Ohio State pummeled Oregon 41-21. So you got Penn State, Ohio State, 2 teams from the Big Ten, right? And you got Texas and Notre Dame. I think I might have said something in either a podcast that it was going to be 2 SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams. That is not true. It's 2 Big Ten teams with Penn State and Ohio State in the Final Four or semifinals, if you will. You got Ohio State, Penn State, and you got Texas and Notre Dame. This is old school stuff, right? Old school. We're gonna pull up the college football playoffs. Let's see if I can get the matchups up. Here we go, guys. This next site I'm pulling up's got everything from the Cricket Celebration Bowl all the way down through the Final Four of the playoffs. Can you believe Ole Miss pummeled Duke like they did 52-20 in the Jacksonville, Florida Gator Bowl, which was not a playoff game? And now you've got the Final Four. I don't see the matchups. We'll try to find the matchups, but let's see here. You've got, obviously, got some good games coming up in college football. Obviously, in the 12-team playoff is down to 4 teams now in the playoff. Penn State is going to be in the Orange Bowl. Man, you got Penn State, you got Texas, you got Notre Dame, and you got Ohio State. That's the 4 teams that have made it to the Final Four. We talked about the Icemen. Their 4-game winning streak came to an end against the Florida Everblades, 6-2. And we're typing and talking here, so bear with me. Jacksonville Jaguars play the Colts in Indianapolis. And the Colts are like a 3.5-point favorite now. Again, the Colts are about a 3.5-point favorite over the Jaguars in Indianapolis. It's really kind of a meaningless game, but, you know, you're a Jags fan, you want to win. Some people say, well, you win, it makes the it makes obvious the draft selection won't be as good if you Jaguars. Either way, they're going to draft in the top line. That's my opinion. Oregon was ranked number 1. They got eliminated 41-21 by Ohio State. Georgia got beat by Notre Dame. Boise State is out. Arizona State's out. Those are all the bye teams, right? Oregon, Georgia, Boise State, and Arizona State were those were the bye teams, right? How about that? So playoffs, yep, a lot of playoff games. A lot of bowl games out there. Ole Miss 52, Duke 20 in the Gator Bowl game. Sugar Bowl quarterfinal had Notre Dame beating Georgia 23-10. Ohio State 41, Oregon 21. Texas, this was the game I wanted to find here. Texas 39, Arizona State 31. That game took 2 overtimes. And Penn State, a convincing 31-14 win over Boise State. So we got more playoff games. Got more playoff games coming up. Those are all the scores of the playoff games. We've been checking bowl games, as you know. Let's see. Here we go. Penn State college football playoff semifinal games will be played on January the 9th and January the 10th of 2025. Number 6 ranked Penn State will face number 7th ranked Notre Dame. This is old school college football. That'll be in the Orange Bowl. And then in the Cotton Bowl, you got Texas. Does this give Texas a little bit of a home field in the Cotton Bowl? Texas plays Ohio State. It should be, as we as my dad used to say, a slap dang good one. Texas and Ohio State. Ohio State is playing some great football right now. You'd like to think, man, as good as Ohio State's playing, they should beat Texas, but we'll see. So you got Ohio State and Texas. The winner will play the winner of the Penn State Notre Dame game. Penn State and Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. And you got Texas and Ohio State absolutely in the Cotton Bowl. So there you go. College football, kind of breaking it down here. Who wins the Final Four? My gosh, or the semifinals, as you say. It's gonna be interesting. Too many games, yes. I think there's too many games in this playoff. Too many teams, 12. I think it should probably be 8. I think the people that own college football, I think they're going to have this thing up to 16 teams within 5 years, maybe less, maybe longer. But I think they're gonna say, hey, we need more games. It's all about advertising revenue and programming for the people that run college football, namely the 4-letter network ESPN. But the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, they said they're not moving days and times around for ESPN. Don't they know that who owns college football? So that's some of obviously what's going on. We know where the teams are playing now in the semifinals. Okay, the Cotton Bowl will be played on January the 10th at 7:30 p.m. in Arlington, Texas. January the 10th, that will be Texas versus Ohio State. January the 9th in the Orange Bowl, semifinal college football in Miami Gardens, Florida, in the Orange Bowl. It'll be Penn State versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame knocked Georgia out. You got to give Notre Dame credit. They've had a great season, and it may be one of their better teams. So that's a look at college football. We're about 37 minutes in on the podcast. By the way, go to bigjreport.com, Neighbors 2 section. You can find a listing of our concerts. In future podcasts, we will go to that page and mention some of the concerts coming up. Foreigners coming to Northeast Florida, and there's a few other shows up there as well. The group Chicago. I heard I've got to update this one, but I heard the Little River Band is coming to the area too. JC, our executive producer, knows all about the Little River Band. They're going to be coming to Northeast Florida, so we'll be updating the dates and the place for that as well at bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section. Special thanks to our sponsors, who you can definitely read on our ticker. Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in North Florida, whether it's home, residential, business, or commercial real estate. There's a link on our website for Saucer Realty and Capital and Larry Saucer and his staff at Saucer Realty and Capital for your real estate needs in North Florida and surrounding areas. Want to thank the Mad Max Mix and Mad Max's great Wednesday evening show, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. JC's live in the pub with new shows in a new year in 2025 at lakeupallahits.com. Great internet radio. JC's live from the pub show on Thursday nights, starting at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And Mad Max is on similar times on Wednesday night at madmaxmix.weebly.com. Max goes from 6 till 8 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock Eastern Time. You'll find the links for these shows in our Neighbors 2 section at bigjreport.com. There's also a link for Mad Max's show in the Outside the Box section at bigjreport.com. That's going to do it for this episode. This has actually been episode show number 75 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We're on our audio platforms as well, and you're watching also on YouTube, the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Special thanks to our executive producer, JC, another producer, Alex Nunnery, and our contributor and correspondent, John Gaylor. Again, thank you guys very, very much for listening and watching the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm your host, Scott. Hey, have a great day. Okay.